Welcome to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex and today we're taking a look at Slipstream on the Nintendo Switch, a racer that takes influence from the classic Outrun. Is it worth the smaller cost of entry, or should you be holding onto that cash? Well, hit subscribe, but join us here on SwitchCorner for reviews and deals near daily, and let's get started. Slipstream then is an arcade racer through and through. There's no story here outside of a few dialogue lines from, competing racers. It's simply those stylistic gameplay and a wealth of modes. The core gameplay here, it's a style of racing that rarely involves brakes, and if you want to beat out the competition, brakes would definitely be advised against. Controls wise though, we steer with the left stick, accelerate with A, brake with B, and then rewind time with Y. The brake though then acts as another way to drift, but you can make this automatic as well. You see, rather than shifting gears here, instead you'll quickly tap the brake button and then jump back to accelerate. This will implement a drift. You can make this automatic should you choose at the cost of acceleration, and you'll also be presented with a number of difficulties that relate to your competition. The easy way to explain it though, easy, medium and hard. The drifting here is surprisingly challenging though when in manual, not because it's complicated, rather it's an experience where you need to get that timing down. Should you want to make things here even easier, you can jump into the options menu and turn down the preset speed of the game. It's actually set to 100% initially, but you can go crazy here all the way down to 50% should you choose. It's a really good way though to learn how the turning works and how that drifting works, so it's definitely maybe worth a look for at least a couple of races. The only other area for controls and the rewind does require a recharge. You can't use it constantly over and over, and then you'll be using the title Slipstream. Simple enough concept: get behind a car, stay there long enough, be rewarded with a speed boost. While the controls then are simplistic, it still supports the action with a basic tutorial, which I suggest everyone takes the 5 or so minutes to engage with. It's for sure just a quick lesson in the ability expected from you of Slipstream. Modes then, it packs in both single player options and multiplayer. That multiplayer, it is local only, and it supports up to 4 players at any one time in true arcade retro fashion. The racing then is made up of 6 modes. Grand Tour is an ongoing race. You'll compete across 5 events, and with each, expect this mode to face you off against a single competitor. Get to that finish line first and the race is yours. Before then you choose 1 or 2 directions and you'll move on to the next, let's call it, segment. It means that should you choose it, each race can be different, and the game gives you a handy little results page showing what you missed, who you beat and who you lost to. You also then get the option with races to play them forwards or in rewind, essentially doubling the number of tracks on offer. Next up then is Grand Prix, perhaps my favourite of all modes. It's 5 separate races with season scoring, and along the way you'll be able to customise that ride. Starting out, you're extremely slow basically, so you will need earnings to invest that cash. Wouldn't come here for a huge amount of variety. It's basically the engine, gearbox and tyres, but it's definitely a nice spin. It packs then 3 cups to compete in as well. The remainder of the race types then, they are more filler, but we get Cannonball, that's connected stages with customization. Think number of rivals, the density of traffic and number of tracks you'll face. Time trial then, battling against yourself for that best time over 3 or more laps, and then Battle Royale. This mode, it can be 4, 8, 12 or 16 competitors, and it's the idea that you race a track, last place gets eliminated. This mode extremely difficult as well. The only other mode, single race, or what I'd call, quick race, and as you would expect no doubt, this is just player choice. You choose one of the 15 contained tracks, choose the number of laps, racers, choose if you want standard or reverse when it comes to that track, and position yourself on the starting grid. There's a few secrets in here as well along the way. You'll have 5 cars to work with then that vary in their setup. That's, top speed, acceleration and handling, but that's really everything to the gameplay. Along the way then, we do get a few menus as well. Tracking wise, you can check out your record that contains a best time, and then trophies. These are essentially achievements, though naturally being the Nintendo Switch, they are built into the game only. Some of these are self-explanatory, while others, they are secret that you will need to uncover. The racing, honestly, it's fun. It absolutely captures that old school arcade feel, and drifting around corners, it's absolutely satisfying after kind of a brief learning curve at the opening. It's a case of here, though, they've added a dash of modern as well with that rewind function, and it actually feels right at home in this style of gameplay. It's not perfect though, the drifting, probably a little bit more challenging than many retro racers on the market. It means the game's not immediately just like, pick up and play. I'd suggest you definitely warm up to that, maybe slow down the speed of the game or at least start with automatic. Then the difficulty curve here, it's a little unbalanced. Trying to win a race at times feels incredibly difficult, especially when it comes to that Battle Royale mode. I'd suggest with that mode at least, start on easy, work your way up. My final issue, and this is kind of the big one for me, the lack of a dedicated career mode. You definitely feel it. The fact it's a budget game, I want to take that into account, but any form of like long-lasting mode really makes it feel like it's good for, a small quick pick up and play session, but not necessarily something you're going to return to too frequently. You really have the trophies and that's about it. Even maybe a few unlockable cars, that would have been a nice touch to keep me coming back just a little bit more. The real frustrating thing with this as well is Grand Prix mode, where you add all the upgrades. You can see the potential for a mode like it, and they just kind of skipped over making what I would call an expanded edition of it. That all said though, look, it's a fun little retro racer in its gameplay, and no doubt many fans of Outrun styled gameplay will find a lot to like here. Graphically then, it's of course retro with this heavy pixel style, and like Outrun before it, cars they almost turn on the spot. Getting used to the visual style, it's kind of half the battle here, because you need to understand when you should lay off that drift to line up the next straight of the track. Thankfully though, the game understands this and does cover it in the tutorial. Track variety is nice then, from cityscapes to deserts to those that resemble the neon lights of Las Vegas. The same can be said of the cars as well. It's a small selection, sure, but each feels varied and satisfying, especially in the way it looks. Menus then are simple enough, which is fine, easy to navigate, and in the options we even get a few options, think like filters, so CRT in keeping with the style. My only visual issue is the opposition. They have portraits above their cars. They are not pixelated like the rest of the game. Feels a tiny bit jarring in comparison, and then just occasionally on turns, traffic, the cars, they can look a little like they are floating visibly, though that seems to be just kind of the perspective design and not an actual issue with the game. Once you get closer, you definitely start to see that connection. Audio to close things out then, and the cars, they sound heavy enough with a dash of variety, though in keeping with the retro design. Music, it's synthwave, it's got a few catchy tracks in here. It definitely could have been better, it won't, blow your mind, but it's for sure the style you would expect given the visuals. Just don't come here expecting, Gunship or the Midnight, and you'll have a good time with it. So the final verdict, and we've got a budget retro racer on our hands that ticks the majority of boxes. The gameplay is entertaining, it's fast paced, and its presentation spot on to its influences. Problems: lack of a sense of progression, there's no real career mode, there's a few quirks in its graphical design, and at times an unbalanced difficulty curve. That all said though, price wise it's $10 or your local currency, and I just don't think you can complain at that. And while I don't think you're going to get endless replayability out of this one, I think in single player that should keep you busy for at least a few hours, and then multiplayer, it could be a good old retro time. A good 7 out of 10 from me today, and hopefully it receives a follow-up. This one packs a ton of potential. Love to see them expand on it with some form of career-centric mode in the future. Will you be adding this one to the library then, or holding onto that cash? A shout out then to the patrons of the channel who are going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.